What is up, runners? Have you ever thought about what your favorite marathon map might be? Now, I spent a couple dozen hours playing the game, so I went ahead and made this ranking to go ahead and give you so that you can argue about it down below. Now, I didn't rank these based on how much money you can make on them, but rather how fun they are and how interesting it is to run them. I would rather have a fun time playing the game than make money a little bit faster. By the way, if you are watching this when it comes out, we'll be less than 3 days away from Season 2 launching, so be on the lookout for maybe an update patch video that talks about things that may change this map ranking, like if the maps have new things happening on them or if they are removing activities, it'll be listed in those patch notes. Finally, be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe down below if you want to catch more videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and if you want to follow me on Twitch, you can catch me live 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday and Friday. Let's start with, unfortunately, the worst map in the game, and that's going to be Cryo Archive. Personally, I think Cryo is a great achievement. It's a monument to the possibilities that you have in an extraction shooter. The fact that you can go ahead and have some of these raid-esque mechanics in the game is really cool. However, Cryo has a lot of problems, mostly to do with the meta, and I think the meta comes about as a byproduct of the actual design. Let's start with some of the aspects of Cryo Archive, right? It is a very structured map in the sense that every team that spawns will start to PvP at the beginning, have to get their clearance up as a sort of raid mechanic, quote unquote, and then once you get deeper in, you'll start PvPing a little bit later. But you have to participate in the clearance mechanic, and once you get to the center, it is like PvP central. PvP is everywhere, all the time, and it's practically unavoidable. I don't think there's going to be a single game where you play Cryo without getting into combat if you are like actively playing the match and not sitting in your spawn as far away as possible till the end of the timer. It does have a lot of purple plus gear, a lot of loot. Even without keys, you can get like good purple money items and materials in Panopticon and the Armory, and even the compiler trace, I think it is the red thing at the bottom if you get tier 5. So it's a good map to earn money and get resources, assuming you can get to the end of the actual lobby, and that you can get the clearance to do it in the time that you have. There is constant PvE at all times across the map, and purple bots are everywhere. On one hand, it's great that there's a lot of PvE and you have fun doing PvE at some point, but eventually it scales up to just have purple bots everywhere, and there's like 4, 5, 6 purple bots fighting you at once, and it becomes practically impossible to kill them while you're PvPing and trying to extract, and it gets like really, really bogged down in health pools. I would say it's actually reminiscent of actual Marathon 1 maps, where there's secrets around every corner, and there's tight corridors, and it's hard to navigate. It does bring back that feeling that I had playing Marathon 1, but the rat nest that it is hallways on hallways, and cramped, and the areas that you have that are wide open aren't big enough for the characters with the abilities that we have, that you just get trampled. So if you're gonna go fight people, you're almost always fighting people up close. Very rarely is there the space for assault rifles or snipers to be relevant. It's almost always shotguns only and maybe SMGs. It's not just that the shotguns are good or that grenades are good, because the grenades were good and the shotguns were good before Cryo Archive came out. And yes, there were times on Outpost where that was an issue, but nothing plays like Cryo Archive, where you get stuck in hallways and there's nothing you can do but sit in front of the one doorway that you can open and eat grenades, and that's it. When every other gun in the game has a long TTK of upwards of a second, being able to instantly kill people with grenades and shotguns just doesn't work out. The TLDR for why this is like the worst map in my list is that it's difficult to learn, there's a huge time commitment to playing it, you have to spend a ton of time if you're gearing, you have to like actually rebuild your loadout to hit the 5k minimum every time, and it's hard to do that when some of the guns that are good are really cheap and the bad guns are the expensive guns. And the worst part is that there's limited availability. If we could play Cryo Archive every day of the week, maybe I would like it more, but since it's limited to just 3 days a week, and half of those days I'm working or busy, it's rough and it's hard to justify. Now, the third best map, or perhaps the second worst, however you want to look at it, is Outpost for me. Now, Outpost is probably an entire tier above Cryo Archive. Let's say Cryo is a C tier for me. Outpost is a solid B tier. There are 6 points of interest, one of those being Pinwheel. And if you don't Pinwheel, why'd you come to the map, really? It is tiny. I mean, if you run around the entirety of Outpost, it would probably fit in 1/2 to even 1/3 of Dire Marsh or something like that. And on any other extraction game, it would fit maybe 10 to 15 of these on one single map. So in comparison to other extraction shooter maps, it is a pitifully small map, which leads to it being very close range heavy. And Heat Cascade forces you into buildings where you are, then again, enforced on being a close range fighter. There are spaces where long range weapons like snipers or railguns can participate, especially in the early parts of the game where you're fighting people outside the pinwheel, but once you are in the pinwheel, it's pretty much shotguns all the time. On its side though, the most consistent and best loot outside of Cryo Archive is found on this map. You do have to go to Pinwheel, and everybody's trying to go to Pinwheel, and everybody's fighting to get into the Pinwheel and open the boxes, but there's fewer resources because you don't have so many POIs, it is a bit more limited, and there are way less interesting activities. I mean, even compared to the vaults, you have one thing to do on this map, and that's the Pinwheel. Convoy does exist, but it's literally follow and shoot a cube. It's very uninvolved, and if anything, it's just there so you make noise and maybe somebody comes to shoot you. Now, we do have a couple of events that you can partake in here. We do have supply drops and locked rooms, which require clearance keys. Those will be greens and yellows. Secured resources makes an appearance on this map, which, that's just like the box that you interact with and it spawns some enemies. There is one that can spawn on the outside and one that can spawn inside the pinwheel. And then as our main events, we have the Tox Warden, who is the warden on this map, the boss enemy, the Gold Shield, who is a poison grenadier basically. He's kind of awful to fight and he immobilizes you, I think. Honestly, one of the most dangerous bosses we have, I think. Then we have Convoy, which is literally following a box and shooting squares. And then Pinwheel / Red Room, I'm doing as one thing. Pinwheel you can get into with 2 greens, which isn't too hard to come by. But for doing the Red Room, it is 3 red keys, and that has potential to spawn a lot of the Cryo Archive keys, as well as a couple Pinnacle Strongboxes, which can spawn almost any purple item in the game. I've even seen some gold, I think there's a Hazard Capsule in there. So if you want really high tier items, you gotta go to the Red Room and Outpost or Cryo Archive. Second best map, and by being second best, I think we know that the next one's going to be first place. I'm going to put this in the A tier. It is, I think, better than Outpost, and that's Perimeter. I know it's the beginner map, but with 5 points of interest, there's plenty of terrain, more safe than you would be on most other maps in the open, and there is lower consistency to how much profit you make early in the wipe. Right now, with the end of season event, there are more ways to make money on Perimeter, and it's led to Perimeter feeling more involved and engaging and brought up how much money you make on average there. It is well balanced for a variety of ranges and playstyles. You've got sniper areas, you've got railgun areas, you've got shotgun areas, you've got places where SMGs are viable, you have places where precision weapons like the Strider are viable. It's still a smaller map, but we have a lot of terrain and geography that makes these choke points that you can kind of predict where people are going to be coming from. So it lets you be a little more lax in how much attention you're paying because you know generally where to be looking. It is big enough that you can go wander around and explore the map and feel like you are running into things to do, and you can kind of feel more immersed and less rush, because if you're on Outpost, you have to rush everywhere or else people are going to get there first, and if you're on Cryo, it's PvP all the way. But Perimeter is nice. I don't want to say it's relaxed, but it's less overtly rush everywhere and get things done, and you can experience it a little bit more. With the end of season event, hopefully a lot of this stuff stays. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the exact numbers and drop rates change, but I want to see things like the rocket drone stay, or maybe the guaranteed warden or intercept spawn be a thing. If not all of them, at least just one thing per match should be guaranteed. But we have a wide range of minor and what I would call major events. The minor events would be toxic rooms, the secured resources, the lockboxes, the Mida cache, and the new caloric supply drop. Each of these spawn randomly and they have pre-assigned locations. You go do them, you hit a thing, maybe you can fight some enemies, maybe you don't, and you get some loot. Not generally amazing. Maybe the highest you'll see is a purple attachment or something, but blues and greens are pretty common, so for early gearing, it's great. Then we have the actual really big ticket items, which I would call the Wraith Warden, where that is the invisible scout boss with an SMG who really hurts. the intercept, where you have to do the number puzzle, where you activate a terminal and then look for a matching code, and then take the thing to the next area, and it spawns a dropship, and you kill some bosses, and then you break the thing down, and that has a good drop rate for high rarity items and some money items. The rocket drone is the new thing that spawns in the map in the later portions of the match. You can go ahead and kill that. It is loud, it takes a while, and it drops some decent items and some keys, so that is actually very worth it, I think. And then I have the crash ships on here, which is basically secured resources but slightly souped up. I haven't seen anything truly crazy there, but I've only done 1 or 2. However, I think they should remain in the game. They are at least nice to stumble on, and it makes the map feel a bit more lived in. Finally, if you've been keeping track, we have only 1 map left for our top map of the game. But with Perimeter, I think this is actually going to be in the same tier. So Dire Marsh is a very large map in Marathon. It's still smaller than an extraction shooter map would be in pretty much any other extraction shooter game, but maybe only half instead of a third, right? We have a ton of open space and 7 main points of interest. These points of interest have very long sight lines and can often see each other, so you have great places to set up with snipers and get into sniper fights, but also if you get into a fight in one of these compounds, you have areas where shotguns and SMGs are viable still. This map has the most areas and the most events, which leads to slightly higher profit over Perimeter, still less than Outpost and Cryo, but you feel nowhere near as much constant tension as you do playing those 2 maps. Now, you are stuck trying to use a lot of ranged weapons, so if you aren't into maybe precision rifles and assault rifles and snipers, you might feel a little bit worse on this map, and you might want to go to Perimeter instead. But if you do come to this map, you do have the advantage of more types of loot. Now, it has the same like regular stumble upon events with the tox rooms, the secured resources, the lockdowns, the caches, and the supply drops, but we have the Scorch Warden, who has a big frontal shield, probably harder to fight solo than the rest of the bosses, but I also think he has a more fun boss room. The Anomaly is here, and it has the Anomaly Matter material, where you go ahead and pick up the Anomaly material, and you take it to a thing to condense it, and then you can take it out, and your rewards change based on your current level. Lockdown is a huge event that can take place over 3 different locations on the map and requires antivirus kits, but it has some really good loot, and it's actually probably one of the more involved activities with all the ads that spawn, so I'm actually a pretty big fan of that. And then of course the rocket drone is also spawning on Dire Marsh right now. Assumedly that might stay between now and the Night Marsh mode, but we'll only be able to tell in the future when we get to the next season. I think of all the maps, Dire Marsh plays the most similarly to other extraction shooters, where there is a lot of space to move around, and you don't always run into people while you're walking around trying to move from point of interest to point of interest, and there are ways to move around the outside of the map and kind of find your own path. And I would love to see maybe these locations expanded over time, so we get more areas, more locations, more loot opportunities, more activities or events like the Anomaly and the Lockdown. Variety really is, I think, the spice of life in an extraction shooter. If you're loading into a map and you know how every game is going to play out every single time, like in Cryo or Outpost, it can get very old very fast. But maps like Perimeter and Dire Marsh have a lot more variety in what can happen. And now that we've come to the end of the season and they've added more things to it, I hope to see those continue to provide just some kind of shakeup in how people are playing the early season. Now, I actually don't think this list is going to be very controversial. If it is, like I said, let me know down below. But I hope you enjoyed, and thank you very much for coming and watching. I will see you all again very, very soon.